Let's go up to the top of Trinidad Head. I'm looking at the trees, and they're a little bit darker on the top. Actually, they're quite a bit darker, aren't they? They look. And they're those kind of wind-swept images. So this is the second stage of watercolor painting. Now let's get rid of that small brush and let's get that big calligraphy brush out again. We don't want to be tied down with a little brush. We want to be able to just put these values in. So you can see how value, light and dark, relates to color. Colors also have value to them. So I want to always think about the interplay of light and dark. Let's put in a little more detail here and hope that it's dry enough. So we'll test it, put a little here. And it's okay if it runs a little bit into each other. That's that sculpting idea that I talked about, that the painting merges. It kind of emerges just like a sculpture would from wood, with details coming at the very end. I think one of the reasons that I love plein air painting is that I can hear the wind. I can feel the moisture sometimes. I can just be out in nature and it feels meditative to me. So if you're in that place in your life at home where you need to get out, pick some place that you just love being and let it inspire you. There we go, getting some of that color in. There's a big light area in here that I'm going to leave alone, I think, until the end. Let's see. And I'll put, this is kind of a reddish part of the rock. Watercolors, there's a lot of testing and probing that goes on just to see whether you want it to merge or whether it's too wet. And it's sort of starting and stopping, waiting, being patient just for that right moment. This is a little bit wet in through here. I don't want this to merge too much more. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my value study. And again, that's just that importance of light and dark. And I'm looking at the light and dark in the foreground here. So this is darker in the foreground. We bring things forward with darkness and that contrast between the light and the dark. And it's got a little more detail in it in the foreground too. You begin to see the crevices of the lines in the rocks and the shapes. A little too wet, see? I think it's wonderful painting on foggy days. The paint dries slowly, so it tends to merge a little more. There we go. Okay, let's just check now. Just touch it and see how it goes. Well, I'm going to be brave and see if I can get that ocean in without messing it up. But really, it's okay to mess up. So here goes. Okay, I see a little turquoise in the water. So I'm going to put, but it's a lot of gray-green out there today. And here's where the surf comes into the rock. Let's kind of create that feeling of the surf. coming in, it's coming in and it's crashing. Oh, I love that part of it, trying to be able to do that. There's the light in the dark. If you can, try to keep your horizon line nice and straight. There we go. So there's more white water coming in here. Let's just give the impression of some of the white water coming. Surf crashing. The anatomy of the wave is a kind of a curl. Now back to our painting here. Let's test. Still wet. Maybe there's a few things we can do more here. Put in the top of the rock, kind of a grayish color. Add a little bit more, drop a little more color. I see orange and a little red in here. Drop some of that in. Now sometimes with painting you can just use water and I'm just using clear water here to unify the painting a little bit. So I'm going to come across here with some light water, clear water, and I'm going to use this towel here to dip my brush into so that I can take some of the water out of the brush. And I'm going to come over this and just put a little light dab of clear water. And there's that sculpting part about it. I'm going to use a little clear water here and come into that like so. Can do that here too. And then the sand color is kind of, today it's kind of brownish pink. It's always a time to mix and test and probe. And so let's see, put it down. It's, in terms of the value, it's really quite a bit darker than the surf. So I'm looking at that. And I think the sand is dark because it's overcast, but it's also been kind of misty here. I think it needs a little slight bit of warmth in this. So. Sand has a little texture, so we'll add a little bit here. And I'll leave just some openings of light here, and I can wash back over that, but I want some texture in the foreground. The texture will bring the forward part of the painting to the front here. See all these things happening, all the watercolors merging and everything. You might think, oh, why did he do that? But actually, it's all part of the watercolor process. Okay, this one dries, and let's go back up here and look at the darks here. So this sand needs to be darkened. I think we're ready for it now. There we go. I can go right over some of the rocks. Boy, I'm liking the way that the value of the light and darks, it's starting to emerge a little bit, isn't it? And let's see, we'll just go down. We say draw from the elbow sometimes, just boom. So let's see now if we can put a little bit of detail in our painting. Okay, let's come in through here, bring the painting forward with the dark. Little detail there. Boy, it's just not drying very much. There we go. Just like we add color, we can lift color, and this is important. We can lift color with a flat brush, and I'm going to take it and just lift a little bit. We can clean up things a little bit too. And see right down here, I can clean up here too. So see, you don't have to do everything right the first time. You can go back into a watercolor and you can lift paint out like I've done. Flat brush. Okay, let's look at this, and I'm just going to test to see if it's still wet. If I start to paint this, it'll bloom out, and the sky will have a lot of dark color that I won't want. But let's see how we go here. I don't want this too dark because I want this shape, this rock, to be pushed back a little bit. And so there we go. I think I can tone that down a little bit. Let's add a little color in the foreground here. This rock needs a little bit of color to make it come forward. Bright colors will always be in the foreground, not in the distance. All right, let's go back into our value study and just see if it's ready to put a little detail in. See how the darks make the painting come forward. It's still a little too wet to do much more with. You have to wait until it's dry, I think. So this is stage 1 and 2 of our watercolor process. With stage 1, we did a unifying wash of very light value over both paintings. With stage 2, we tried to bring in some of the darker areas so that you begin to see the far distance pushed back and what's up front brought forward. So for right now, because it's so wet, I think I need to wait a little bit before I go on with my painting.